Brian Thomas has been dealing with this really annoying shoulder injury on top of all the other narrative stuff that's been going on. So can you give me an update on his shoulder injury first?
I don't really think there's much new in the way of what he's dealing with and how they're managing it. I think it's just more the same, to be honest. He's probably going to get some limited sessions in, and he'll kind of just play through it. It's probably something that's going to linger for quite a while, maybe even the rest of the year.
Yeah, so I wanted to get into this because there's been a lot of hoopla about will the Jaguars trade Brian Thomas, because it just seems like with Liam Cohen, with Trevor Lawrence, there just doesn't seem to be something mixing quite right there. It would be dumb because he's a hell of a talent and he's only in the second year of his career. And Trevor Lawrence has been nothing but a bust. So I don't know why you'd side with him other than the contract. It doesn't sound like they're going to trade him. But I do bring that up to bring this up. You know who the Jaguars in this regime did make a big commitment to? And that was Travis Hunter. And the thing that's been holding Travis Hunter back all season long is that they have been actually trying to legitimately split him between wide receiver and cornerback. Well, before the bye week, that was no longer the case. He was 100% full-time a wide receiver. And for the first time, we saw him play 90% of the snaps. And it wasn't just because Brian Thomas hurt his shoulder. He was already playing that much before Brian Thomas got hurt. There's an emphasis on this team that if he's not going to be able to play both ways, with the draft capital they gave up to draft him number 2 overall, they have to make him work somewhere. They have to justify it. I think there's a very good chance Travis Hunter, if he's not the number 1 target over BTJ, is at least getting a very, very similar target share the rest of the way and playing 100% at the wide receiver position. And it wouldn't surprise me, given the lack of chemistry between Trevor Lawrence and Brian Thomas, that he does overtake as the number 1 receiver on that team. And as a result, would be a top 20 wide receiver for fantasy football purposes. So this is something to really keep your eye on heading into the upcoming weeks. If you have Travis Hunter, I think the volume is going to turn the corner for you pretty soon here. All right, let's talk a little Calvin Ridley, still dealing with his hamstring injury. Do you have an update?
And it doesn't sound good. I think he already is carrying a doubtful tag heading into the weekend, which means 25% chance he plays. And if you're talking a hamstring, that probably drops down to 10. So yeah. I think he didn't even practice earlier in the week. I'm not sure if he did anything today. So it's not looking optimistic.
No, I would say probably not. Chimere Dyke has been, or DK, however you want to say his last name. He's been very good the last couple of weeks. Alec Ayomanor has been the guy who's been playing the most, especially with Calvin Ridley out. He's been okay, but there's not an explosive factor to his game like there is for Chimere. He could take the top off, and he's finally been playing more since they got rid of Tyler Lockett. He's been allowed to play in the slot. That's where he needs to go. He's a seam stretcher. That is his game with Cam Ward. I actually rather take a shot on him and the upside that he can bring with a big play than if you're going with Alec Ayomanor in any league. And again, we're probably talking deeper leagues here or buy spots, but that's the kind of direction I would want to go in with no Calvin Ridley yet again. Speaking of wide receivers, we're probably not going to have yet again. Ricky Pearsall, anything?
I don't think we're seeing him this week either. There was some kind of weird statement by, I think, John Lynch about PCL's a real nagging injury. Yeah.
Hashtag
because usually you get a bone bruise with it, and that's probably what he's dealing with. I've been saying that all along. I'm not sure if the reports have said that, but when you have a PCL injury, that's the two things that can potentially keep somebody out this long with a PCL injury, or if it's significant enough, are bone bruising and or instability of the knee. And it sounds like it's probably the former rather than the latter, because he hasn't really done anything. So, and that has continued to be the theme this week, and I don't think we're going to see him again.
He was leading the NFL or I think he was third in the NFL in receiving yards before he got hurt, and we just haven't seen him since. Like it's so annoying. It's so annoying what's going on. And then you talk about the IR spot. I know I mentioned before, like, okay, some teams have hit that point where they're kind of running out of designated to return IR spots, and that could be a reason why. But this is crazy. Like, stop telling me he's week to week. Just give me a timeline. Just give me an actual timeline. Ugh, annoying. Anyway, one guy I didn't put on the list here. I'm just going to mention him real quick. Terry McLaurin's already been ruled out. Sounds like he re-aggravated that quad injury on Monday night.
We kind of called that too.